In a vibrant forest, a clever but mischievous young fox named Finn often used his wits to get what he wanted, sometimes at the expense of others. One day, he spots a bunch of juicy grapes hanging high above, tempting him to take them. When his attempts fall short, a wise owl named Olive challenges him to rethink his actions, teaching him a lesson on sharing, balance, and respect for the forest and its creatures. Little does Finn know that this encounter will change his life forever. Once upon a time, in a beautiful forest surrounded by lush greenery and towering trees, lived a young fox named Finn. Finn was known for his sharp mind and his quick thinking, but he was also a bit mischievous. He often found himself in trouble due to his clever tricks, yet he couldn't resist the temptation of using his wits to take the easy way out of difficult situations. One warm morning, as Finn was wandering through the forest, he spotted a large, juicy-looking bunch of grapes hanging from a vine high above him. They were the biggest and most tempting grapes he had ever seen, glistening in the sunlight. He could almost taste the sweet flavor of those grapes just by looking at them. Without thinking twice, Finn decided he had to have them. Finn jumped up as high as he could, but he couldn't reach the grapes. He tried climbing the tree next to the vine, but the branches were too thin to hold his weight. Frustrated but determined, he took a few steps back and ran as fast as he could, leaping up with all his might. Still, he fell short of the prize. Just then, a wise old owl named Olive, who had been watching Finn's efforts, chuckled softly from her perch on a nearby branch. "Oh, Finn," she said, "those grapes are quite high up. Perhaps they're not meant for you to eat." Finn looked up, a bit embarrassed. "I can get 'em if I try harder," he replied stubbornly, unwilling to give up. Olive, with her calm and kind voice, replied, "Sometimes, things are out of our reach for a reason, Finn. Have you ever thought about the cost of what you're trying to take?" "What do you mean?" asked Finn, tilting his head in confusion. "Those grapes belong to everyone in the forest. They're here to nourish many creatures, not just for one fox to enjoy," Olive explained. "If you keep trying to take 'em for yourself, you may harm the vine, and then no one will have any grapes at all." Finn frowned, not fully convinced but curious about Olive's wisdom. "But I'm the one who spotted 'em first," he argued. "Shouldn't I get to have them?" Olive smiled gently. "Tell me, Finn, do you remember the time you took that squirrel's acorn stash because you were hungry? How did that turn out?" Finn's ears drooped as he remembered the incident. He had once taken a small stash of acorns from a squirrel's hollow when he was hungry. At the time, it seemed harmless. But later, he learned that those acorns were the squirrel's only food supply for the coming winter. Finn had felt terrible when he realized he'd taken something so important to someone else. "I remember," Finn admitted, feeling a pang of guilt. "I guess it didn't end well." Olive nodded. "Exactly. The forest thrives on balance. Every creature has its role, and every resource has a purpose. Taking what isn't yours, even if it seems harmless, can upset that balance. But there are other ways to find what you need." Finn thought carefully about Olive's words. For the first time, he began to understand that his actions affected more than just himself. The grapes he was so eager to take might have been food for other creatures too. Still, his hunger gnawed at him. He looked back up at the grapes, longing for their sweetness. Olive, sensing his struggle, offered a suggestion. "Why don't you try the berry bushes near the stream? They're ripe this time of year and much easier to reach. You won't need to take something that belongs to others, and you'll have more than enough to eat." Reluctantly, Finn agreed to try. He followed Olive's advice and trotted over to the stream, where he found bushes brimming with juicy berries. As he ate his fill, he realized the berries were just as delicious as he'd hoped the grapes would be. And he felt a sense of satisfaction knowing he hadn't taken something meant for others. Over the next few days, Finn noticed the balance Olive had mentioned. He watched as the birds picked at the grapes he had once coveted, and he saw squirrels and other small animals benefit from the food around them. As he observed, he realized that the forest was like a giant family, each member depending on one another in some way. One afternoon, he came across a young rabbit struggling to find food. Remembering Olive's lesson, Finn decided to help. He led the rabbit to a patch of wild carrots he had discovered and showed her how to dig for the roots. The rabbit's eyes sparkled with gratitude, and Finn felt a warmth in his heart that was far greater than any satisfaction he'd ever felt from one of his tricks. As the seasons changed, Finn grew into a responsible and respected member of the forest community. He continued to use his cleverness, but now he did so to solve problems and help others rather than to take what he wanted. And in return, the forest seemed to open up even more for him, offering him food and shelter when he needed it most. One day, as he rested by the stream, Olive flew down to sit beside him. "I'm proud of you, Finn," she said with a smile. "You've learned the true meaning of sharing and respect." Finn grinned, feeling proud but humble. "Thank you, Olive. I owe it all to you." Olive winked. "The wisdom was always inside you, Finn. You just needed a reminder." From that day forward, Finn became known not only for his cleverness but also for his kindness and respect for others. And in return, he was blessed with the friendship of the entire forest. The other animals looked up to him, knowing they could count on him, and Finn found a happiness he had never known. And so, the forest continued to thrive, with each creature doing their part, just as Olive had taught them. And as for Finn, he realized that true strength and satisfaction came not from taking what he wanted but from giving and living in harmony with others. The lesson Finn learned stayed with him for the rest of his life, that in the end, kindness and respect are the greatest treasures of all.